Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Moji Baba Ki Jai. So, one of the Sangha members here got one of the first print copies of the book, Knowing of the Heart. So, I was just feeling like I was saying better stuff earlier. So, maybe I can read a bit from this. Let's try this one. So, I said my 3 questions for inquiry. First question: who is aware of my existence? Second question: who is aware of awareness? Third question: who am I? The first question: who is aware of my existence? Second question: who is aware of awareness? And third question: who am I? These 3 questions are very clear, very well designed pointers to bring you easily and quickly to this intuitive insight. So, as far as possible, don't change the questions or the order of the questions. There is only one precondition for the inquiry. At least for the time that you are inquiring, you will not be bothered by anything that is in time and space. This neutrality is the precondition for us to be able to have this intuitive insight. Everything else in spirituality is so that this precondition can be managed. So, anyway, that is not so important. So I feel that these simple pointings, most of what is shared in Satsang and most of what is shared in this tradition that we call Advaita Vedanta is captured. Who is aware of my existence? Who is aware of awareness itself? And who am I? And the precondition is that for the duration of the inquiry, we remain as unconcerned by anything in time and space as possible. Looks like Rani has her hand up, although there's some other hands as well. But you can say something, Rani. You're unmuted already.
Okay, namaste, Ananta-ji. So beautiful to be here with you tonight. And yeah, thank you so much. Muji Baba would refer to this as a knowledge question. So I just wanted to clear something up because we lose a little bit of understanding. I've been also working on Satori, not working on, but let's say partaking in the Satori that a teacher for many years has been offering. And once a year we sit in this very intense 10-minute asking each other the question. Maybe it was an old Osho practice. I don't really know where it came from, but basically, Koham Soham. So, like
Mhm.
Koham, what my teacher for this pointed out, she said, often we lose actually who am I is different to what am I in
Mm.
terms of, and we it gets misplaced in our translation. So I just wondered if you could elaborate on this point. I know it's knowledge, and but it for some reason this being wants just to hear it from your lips, dear Father. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I've said this sometimes as well that uh, for multiple reasons, sometimes it's because the mind has built up enough defenses to the question, who am I? So sometimes it is useful to just say, but what am I? What am I? So that is definitely helpful. And sometimes it's also okay to ask, where am I? Because many times we are stuck in the notion of being like an objective entity contained within the objective body. So a question like, where am I, really clears that up very quickly, because if we just look very simply, we realize that I cannot be an object contained within this body, and the body actually just contains other objects. Like an object can only contain other objects. So where am I, or what am I is also all right. So, but what can happen in none of these are perfect. I have to say, like all of these are perfect, and yet
Yeah.
none of these are perfect. So literally, none of them are perfect. But truly speaking, any of them is perfect. So as long as the point is that it gets you to look independent of perception and independent of conceptualization. That is the entire purpose of any inquiry question. You see? So whether it is a niti practice or this practice which sounds quite nice, this Satori practice which you mentioned, anything that you're doing, you see, because our conditioning is so much to look at things just perceptually or come up with some sort of understanding conceptually. Any question which pushes you out of that mode of understanding or perceiving, that is a useful inquiry. So who am I is good because whatever shows up, you can say, so who am I that is witnessing that? You see? So who is that which is witnessing that? And why it is good is because in many of the other inquiries, what can happen is that we start referring to ourselves as that, you see, and then the master has to say, what is the distance between that and you, to bring that the reality of the I and that to become apparent. You see, so in that way, who am I is quite helpful, because when we say what is there, or a question which is not so direct, then the master, you will find, often says, okay, where are you in relation to that? You see, with who am I, many times that is not needed. So, but my main recommendation would be that whatever resonates with you the most in these inquiries, it could be who am I, it could be what am I, it could be where am I, it could be am I aware now, or what is aware of my existence. Any of these questions, take one and dig that really deep, deep. You see, not shallow digging. Take one which you feel like resonates with you the most, and really dig deeply with that, because the mind is bound to offer you alternatives and offer you and say this is a bit not so good, something else is better, you see. But remember that uh, remember that all of these are good enough, any of these are good enough, because all of them are potent enough to shake you out of like making conceptual conclusions or a sort of reliance on perceptual experience. So, yeah, what am I is fine. But that doesn't mean that who am I is bad. But you have two options to pick from.
So thank you, Father. If I answer, who am I, Koham?
It's not so
Then
audible now, my dear.
what comes next? Sorry, it's not a good line. How's that? Is it any better?
Not heard so well.
Well, can you hear me? Sorry.
This part was all right, but just barely. Maybe I'm just going to mute everyone for a moment
Okay,
and
I'll
we'll
just
unmute you.
try one more time. So,
1 second, my dear. We just mute everyone and then you can unmute. Okay, how about you try now to unmute and to say?
okay, yes. So thank you. So I say, Koham, who am I? And if I answer this one, what comes is I'm human being. So I'm like human beingness. So I'm human beingness who is aware. I am awareness.
Yeah,
And then I come in with what am I? I am awareness.
yeah,
I'm awareness that I am Rani in human body, right? You know, acting as consciousness, acting out on the screen of consciousness. So I'm kind of in this, I know it's just words. It's, what am I wanting from this? I don't know if it's, mm, so when I say I'm human beingness, I feel that this incorporates, it's got personal and it's got impersonal in it, Father. So it's like, I guess I just want to be able to drop the words and just at least be able to navigate through the clumsy language that we have. That's where I'm at. And if I say this, I'm human beingness, how is this for you? How does this resonate?
we can say it. It's completely fine. Um, what can happen many times with this kind of thing is okay. Something is. I'm getting some feedback, so maybe in the meanwhile, mute you and see. And okay, testing. Yeah, it seems all right now. So what can happen many times is that what I've noticed is that with inquiry, we get pointed to something which is so beyond the manifest that we come to the recognition of ourselves, which is beyond time and space. But many times, we because of our need to include in a way, what happens is that a notion like, but ultimately I am human after all, you see, can come back and bring us back into some identification as being personal or something like that. But if in that statement, as you are human beingness, you are more taking yourself to be beingness, which is now expressing itself in a human way, then that is completely fine. It sounds fine to me. Another proposition I have for you is to really explore whether you're really contained as beingness within one body, or is it contained in the body of the universe? You see? So is the entire universe really your body, or at least that which is manifest and apparent to you as manifest? Is that not your body, or is there a special relationship with a set of sensations that we usually call my body?
It's beingness is the universal beingness, Father. It's like
Yeah.
um, it's life. It's this
Yeah.
complete connectedness to absolutely everything, and it's actually this awareness of this fragile little dot of humanness,
Yeah.
which is part of it. So it's tucked. Life has tucked a little human under its wing, and it's like, well, this is what we are. This is everything. We're everything.
Yeah.
And so to take that to the point of nothingness, if I take it far, far into the galaxies, where it's almost, I guess it could be inconsequential, but I can take this leap. Can I disappear in that though, Father? I can feel the vastness without a doubt. I still have this tiny pinprick, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, when I take this journey with you.
Yes.
So do I have to dissolve this pinprick, or is it's okay, this pinprick there?
Yes. 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 It is not only okay. It is very much part of human existence that this, what is called in Sanskrit, the tanmatra, that much identification will always remain. So, so you will realize that you are beyond all of this, and yet, for even after that recognition, that realization, that tiny minute pinprick, as you called it, a grain of sand worth of identification with one particular body in the human existence is known to continue, and that is the way consciousness seems to be playing. We cannot really make a rule for consciousness because consciousness is free to play out as it likes. But we have seen that even in the greatest masters and sages, and even those that we call the avatars that have come down, the forms of the Lord itself, who have manifested in a very direct way, have been touched by this conditioning. So, so don't try to get rid of that. Don't try to get rid of that. It is completely fine and natural.
Father, do you have that pinprick as well, or is it something that
Yeah, yeah. So it's
it's
like
with you?
let's reflect on that and let's see um, how that all seems to operate here. Here, when I'm at a beach, for example, let me mute you again. Okay, so when I'm at a beach, for example, and I look at the ocean, it is clear that the ocean is appearing within my being, but there's no notion that I must run into the ocean and this body can dissolve into the ocean or something like that. And when I look down from my window, although I know I'm one with everything that is appearing outside the window, there's no such idea that I could jump out of jump this body out of the window and it would make no difference. So that much of that much of identification or caring for the human manifest body still continues here, and that is known to continue for most who have come to the recognition of themselves. So if that is what we mean by the pinprick, then that is very natural for it to continue like that. Another, and even maybe a little more than that. So uh, I look at my biological children and I'm not like, but whose kids are you? You know, that which is here doesn't have children. What are you guys doing here? You know? So I'm just taking some absurd examples just to make my point clear. So the naturalness of human existence can still be allowed to play out, and and that little tinge of identification with the human body is completely natural.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's because this this grain of consciousness that Ramesh and that Chaitan, his brother Chaitanya, used to always talk to me about was the movie. You know, the movie. We're just this movie, and it's just becoming more and more apparent. It's just my emotions when they're really triggered. Just that's the catch still. So I'm just really like, please may they burn. That's all I can just like this. Just just go. Thank you, Father.
All my love, all my blessings, and to your son as well, to both of you. Thank
Thank you.
you. I get a report that my audio is also not so clear today. Of course, I'll go with what Nitya is saying. The sound is really good today. Okay, so I don't need any other confirmation. Okay, Leela wants to come. You can come, my dear. Oh, sorry. Could you unmute yourself, Leela?
Hello, it's Lila. but
Laila, I'm sorry. Yeah,
yes,
okay.
it's Lila. It's okay. Um, um, so it's been a lot of fear to speak to you, but there's something else coming up that I have more fear of today. So I'm coming to you. Um, I don't. I hope it. I hope it'll flow as a um, question, but there's been a lot of fear. I've been with Muji for about 5 years, and I think one thing that brought me, aside from wanting to know the source and where everything is from, is being tired of identifying with fear, being tired of fear in life, and being afraid of what's going to happen to my body. And for a while, for years, I guess, I sort of was just like, forget that. I'm not going to even think about that. And there was always a retreat to go to or something that kind of kept it in the background. But with being home, I live alone in Ireland, and it seems there's not many distractions from. I have really no interest um, from the one thing that's getting me is fear of disease. Maybe not so much death, but say something that's been an old fear is cancer. Having something that has a lot of pain. I can't see you. But
Sorry, my love.
oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I was
Um,
trying to mute some
yeah.
of the others.
Okay.
Let's do one
Yeah.
thing, guys.
I've been.
I'm going to
Oh, okay.
disable the ability to unmute yourselves, and I will only unmute you now. Okay. So then we can have a nice conversation.
Okay. So there's been fear to go to like routine doctor's appointments for years. I mean, kind of at first it was like, no, I just don't need to because I trust the universe. But then there's been more and more, well, you haven't gone for so many years. You don't know that you don't have something. So I kind of like my daughter told me, that's not really being free if you're too afraid to face it. So
Yeah.
I'm actually going within an hour to a doctor appointment to check something that my mind is telling me it's definitely, it could be cancer. There's, and I just, I've done the whole looking at who's afraid and to see that there's no one, but really, I think who's looking is the fear of fear. Really, it's more, it feels like it's more the fear of fear than even the fear of a specific disease
Yeah.
or it's just and you certainly get reinforcement of that if you Google any symptom. There are
Yeah.
thousands of people afraid of the same thing, so there's so much reinforcement of it. And I listened to Rupert Spira also, and he said that if you identify the cure for the fear of death is to identify as the open space of awareness and not, but I'm not that good, and I'm feeling I want it cured right now before this appointment so that this isn't going to bother me. But and I know that probably won't happen right now, but I thought, well, okay, one step is maybe speak to Ananta and put it out here.
Yes.
So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that report, and we'll just have a conversation about this first. Few points that come up. The most important point probably is not spiritual. It is just phenomenal advice. Never Google a symptom.
I
It
know.
is not.
It's the worst. Everyone says that no matter what it is. But then
Yeah.
there is part of me that's feeling like, well, some people really do have the worst thing, so I should be able to deal with that. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to have like a sort of spiritual bravado about these things and
Yeah.
this kind of thing, because
Okay.
some of the stuff, if you just say I have a mild cough and you just Google it, then you
Yes.
may feel like
Yes.
it could be the worst possible manifest experience possible. So
Yeah.
so that's not usually the recommended thing
I
to
know.
Google.
The
To
doctors
Google,
say that too.
medical. Yes, yes, yes. But one thing I want to say is that you spotted this very well, where you said that it's not really the fear of the consequence itself, the worldly consequence, but
Yeah.
something has made us fearful of fear itself. So
Yes.
like there's a fear that, oh, fear should not come,
Yeah.
because fear seems to be a contradictory indicator to my freedom or something like that. So
Yeah.
if fear is coming, therefore I can't be that free, can I? No.
Yeah.
So then that builds a spiritual connotation of of a new fear, which is like a fear of the fear itself, and that attacks our self-image. You see, because what that means is that if fear is still coming, then maybe we are not really free. Although the
Yeah.
masters are constantly saying that you are free, you know, in your original nature, in your true nature, right now you are free, but we look at fear as evidence of
Mm.
not being free enough. And then there is a fear, there's a psychological fear about the fear itself arising. So I want to say that's
Yeah.
very well spotted. And the spotting is 90% of the trouble, you see. So
Yeah.
once you spot it, then it doesn't have that much of a grasp on you. It is the unspotted stuff, you see, which just seems to play out, and then we become frantic and say, "What's happening?" But the masters say, "But you must be like awareness. How can I still have fear?" And you know, it
Yeah.
becomes very, very confusing. So
There is
firstly,
a sorry.
yeah.
There is a
So
big voice that's saying, "No, it's the fear. I just don't want the fear. I'm afraid of the fear." So I mean, it's just no fear, no more fear. But
yes, yes.
yeah.
I feel like fear is as much part of human existence as anything else. Okay.
Oh.
So, so if I was to be on the road in Bangalore and I see a big truck coming towards my car and it's not stopping, then it's very possible that I can't really predict it, but it's very likely that some fear will be experienced here.
Yeah.
You see? So,
Yeah.
so there is no nothing here which wants to constrict anything from showing up. Whatever has to show up in the human condition, it can show up in a way. Your daughter was right. That
Yeah.
what kind of freedom would it be if freedom says, oh, you cannot show up? You see, because if you show up, then I'm not free. So that's a
Yeah.
bit convoluted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Freedom just is a big allowing, no? Is a big allowing of anything that has to show up. It can show up.
It's
You
see
see?
if feeling that that's me, that I'm identified with it. It's not that I just see it though. I don't. It's like I feel like this is me that's happening too.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, so, so when we allow it a bit more to show up, then the identification is not that rapid,
Okay.
because we are not resisting it from showing up so much. And the identification with the resistance is much faster than with just, you see, the experiencer, and taking the experiencer to be something limited is not as fast as we may think, as the
Okay.
identification with the resistance to the fear. You see? You get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
when we put ourselves in a position that this means something about my self image, and that is what a resistance actually is, then that is much more quick than when we allow, you see, and then we say, okay, this is a me that is experiencing fear. You see, that is a bit, actually a bit slower than the trying to stop and don't get identified with this fear. You see,
Mm.
that identification as the policeman of the fear, you see, of the fear
Yeah.
police, is much faster identification than when the fear is just allowed, and we notice, and we start to say, okay, this has to go. If I'm truly free, then this goes. So even that is a little more spaced out, you know, in time, rather than us taking the approach that no, I have to stop this, you can't come,
Yeah.
you cannot. You see? So so it's like this. And I would really recommend that whatever has to show up, fear, anger, you see, hunger, some of these are very natural aspects of the human condition. I call them grade A emotions. You see,
Mm.
what happens is that as you are free, you don't make these grade A into grade B. You see? And what are those grade B? Provisionally, we are saying these kind of distinctions. So grade B would be, so suppose uh, you saw something and you got really angry about it. You see? Then what happens is that uh, we take that anger and say, how could these people do that? You see? So it's not just in the emotion itself. When it is mixed with a notion, you see, of something not right or this should not have happened,
Right.
then we make the pure anger into a grade B resentment.
Yeah.
You see?
Okay.
So things like regret, guilt, pride, resentment, arrogance, all of these are more grade B because we take something which is just very natural and we make a judgment about ourselves or another based on that. And that's what manifests as more lingering sort of suffering. You see, this is what is suffering, no? Guilt, pride, regret, remorse, all of these are suffering is just a broad term for all of these notional conditions. You see, so when we take this natural uh, arising, you see, and we mix a spiritual idea with it, for example, that now that I should be free, this should not come. You see, that
Yes.
is causing more suffering than just the momentary fear which may arise from time to time, like when you're in a dentist chair or a doctor visit or something like that, you see, which just lasts for those few moments. But our ideas about it coming or not coming and how much of it should come or not come, those are more longer lingering. And that is actually a way to suffer.
One thing is that I'm so conditioned. I condition myself or my mind to think through the worst possible concept, like what could possibly happen from this, and then but those movies are still playing. You know, I have a doctor's visit. What if it is this? And to stop those, and they those bring so much more fear, and then and go on, and it's
Yes.
like to sort of they sort of just it's I'm so conditioned to play it out and
Yes.
not just say no, you'll deal with it in the moment and be open. And
I
it's just
understand. I
there's
can relate
those
to this.
movies are so I'm old, and so this has been going on for a long time before I found Mojiji.
I can
So
understand this because usually it is found in the human condition that the anticipation in a fearful way of the event is
yeah,
much more oppressive than actually the event actually playing out. You see?
yeah,
So what happens is that if we fixed a doctor's appointment for next week, then that fear about what may he say and I
yeah,
hope it's not this, all of that, you see, is much more like a constricted sort of experience than actually meeting with the doctor, and usually it just gets over in 5 minutes and it just
yeah,
goes however it goes. But that event itself is never, mostly not as oppressive as the waiting or the anticipation for what it may actually be.
and Muji often tells people it's never the way you think it's going to be. Something
Yes,
you've been afraid of your whole life. If you're afraid of being mugged and then it happens, and it's like it's never what you think. Your worst fear. So that's something I guess to keep in mind. The playbacks of memories of, but remember it was like this. Remember how afraid you were then, and it is just to not luck. I don't know. I guess I can't really say no. You can't come either, but thank you.
so welcome, and it becomes
Thank you.
a big allowing. You see, it becomes a big allowing,
Allow it all.
and we are not so much uh, even so concerned about labeling things. Because I'll tell you another secret before we go, which is that we never actually experience the same thing twice.
Mm. And
You
you
see,
think
every
you
experience in every moment is so unique, but our mind cannot deal with that. So the mind has to deal with broad categories. So it takes a set of sensations and calls them fear. It takes another set of sensations, calls them joy. And but these are very broad, you see,
yeah,
and there is nothing that your being cannot actually handle. You see,
yeah,
your being
that's
is
good
the
to
light
hear.
in which all of this appears. So there's nothing that can appear within this being which can just shake being itself out of place or something like that. It's only always our self image which gets attacked, or our ideas about how life should be or should not be, that get attacked. You see? So what happens is, as you begin to allow, we are also not in a rush to label. Guruji takes a very beautiful example of this. No? He says, for example, that like most people, if you have this thing that is called stage fright, so you go on the stage and you're asked to speak a few words, then you feel like, oh, but I'm so anxious, you see, I'm so anxious. And then if you notice the construct, the energetic construct of that sensation, you will notice that it's very similar to the construct of another sensation that we experience, which we call excitement. If
Yeah.
you're going on a holiday and you're excited, today I'm going to go to this beautiful place.
Yeah.
If you just look at it in terms of what the energy construct is, it's not so different. You see,
Yeah.
but when the mind labels it anxiety, then we get more anxiety about the anxiety. And when the mind labels it excitement, then we feel like this is an occasion to celebrate and feel good. But
Yeah.
when we just you see, meet everything for however it is showing up, then we're completely aware that all that is showing up just comes and goes. This too shall pass. For whether we have labeled it good or bad, you see, we don't even have to repeat it mentally to say this too shall pass, because we are just so aware of ourselves in that way that implicit knowledge is present even without having to remember it, that this is just a passing phase. You see. So
Thank you.
that is why when you're coming to satsang, you're constantly being reintroduced to your deathless reality, you see, and that which cannot be hurt or harmed in any way, no matter what the perceptual phenomenal conditions may be, you see. And as you are reminding yourself, as you not mentally reminding, but as you are recognizing yourself over and over again, you see, then the propensity to fear the fear will start to settle down a bit, will start to settle down a bit. The other antidote to fearing the fear, is to just surrender. You see? Is to
Yeah.
just surrender and say, like when we say Guru Kripa Kevalam, it means that Master's grace is all there is. So whatever happens is happening with my Master's grace. You
Okay.
see? Is happening with
I
the
tried that,
Sadguru's.
but I'll
I see.
keep
I
it.
see. I know. No, I completely understand. I completely understand that
I try to
it's not.
surrender, but something's not doing it.
Yes, it's fine. It's
I
fine.
keep
Don't pick
trying.
up any guilt about or unworthiness about not surrendering completely or something like that.
Okay.
It is just like you continue to notice as you're noticing, then the inquiry, surrender, everything just moves organically.
Okay.
So the words that come to you in satsang are never meant to make you feel like you're not doing a good enough job or something like that. They're just meant to seed something in you, which then seems to sprout organically on its own.
Mm. Thank you so much. I don't want
Oh,
to take all the time from everyone, but thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Something is catching my throat, so I just. Okay, the next hand is. Thank you, my dear. Chanda can come.
Ram, Father.
Namaste, my dear. Namaste.
Uh, Father, I have been doing self-inquiry, and I find the words of truth come to me when I least expect them,
Yeah.
and I see the whole scenario changes. I feel wholly open and empty, and very, very quiet and very, very still. But then, Father, I feel that as I interact with people, I tend to be taking on their energy. So I feel whether if this body perceives anxiety or stress or other energies in them, I'm taking those energies onto myself, and that that brings me back into wholly person and identity immediately. So after that, I try to be open and empty, but I know it's just the mind telling itself to be open and empty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any what is this perception of taking on energy of other people or environment? Like I'm in Vrindavan right now, and I just feel the energy in Vrindavan is just so beautiful. And then my mind says, but energy everywhere is beautiful. Just be open and empty. It's all consciousness. So I get more confused and more bewildered then.
Yes. Yes.
Don't know what to do
Okay.
about
So,
that.
yes. Yes. Okay, my dear. So let's walk through this step by step. So, because this is an interesting conversation I've had a few times. Um, One time, what happened actually is a very interesting story. Is that one, we won't get into names obviously, but one had an awakening experience, you see. And in after the awakening experience, then she felt like she would like to share satsang. She would like to share what she felt, the pointers were to help others in this journey and things like this. But what happened is that as she started to share satsang, she had a similar experience where she felt like she's just taking on everybody's energy to herself. And then she called me and said, "But this is not what I bargained for." You see? So so it's very natural for this to happen. But let's look through this in your example and see. So we do the self inquiry. We come to a self. We recognize that myself is not restricted to this body. It is that which is beyond time and space, beyond all that is manifest. And that which is manifest, at best, is an aspect of my reality. Yes?
Just becomes very quiet, and their sense of separation seems to be not there anymore.
Very good. Very good. So separation is gone. That means there are no others. There is no me, and then there are no others left. You see? Then what happens? Uh, then what happens is we get into conversations, you see, and even at that point, from your report, it seemed like we've not invented another yet. It is just a movement still within consciousness. But when something feels in a way bombarded with energy coming from others, that may be the invention of others. Is it like that?
It's it's almost like, Father, when one starts talking, when
Yeah.
one starts talking and the mind starts coming into it, one is slowly aware that the mind has come into it, and it's the mind interacting. And the awareness and the wholeness of the experience just washes away, and there is just that mind that it becomes more mind and ego
Yeah. Yeah.
and nothing else.
Okay. So, what in a way you're saying is that even before the bombardment of energy happens, the minute it comes to interactions, there's an idea of others because it is the mind. And when we go into the mind, then the mind is always painting portraits of myself as separate from the others. You see? And when it comes to interacting, it can feel like um, I have to go to the mind, otherwise interaction doesn't seem to happen. Or there's an habit that we have where we feel like when we are alone, you see, it's easy to not go to the mind. But when it comes to human relationships or interactions, it can feel like that is the only way we have to engage. You see? But I want to tell you that that intuitive intelligence, you see, which runs this entire universe, can also run interactions. You see, it is independent of any sort of dependency on the mind's advice. You see, many times you also notice that life doesn't follow You see, the mind is saying, say like this, like this, like this, but the words coming out of the mouth seem to be different. You see, so there's a deeper intelligence. For example, when the sharing of satsang happens, you see, it is just words are arising from here, and I'm hearing them. I'm hearing them like you are hearing them, both I and you in quotes. You see, we are hearing them fresh. You see, so what is the intelligence which is speaking these words? It is that very same intuitive intelligence, you see, which is running this life, which can use this mouth to speak as well. So if it can share in this way, then it can share in every situation. You see, so then you will find more and more that even when you are in interactions, you will let your intuitive presence, allow it to speak for itself without feeling like, but I have to go to the mind to interact. And your mind will attack you in many ways, saying, but can you talk to the security guard with your intuition? Yes. Can you talk to a business partner with your intuition? Yes. Can you talk to children, relationship, anything? This intuitive presence has no limitation. You see, it is running this universe. It is running all this gravitation, electricity, light, sound. All of these powers are in service to this consciousness. In the same way, it can run this mouth quite well. It doesn't need any sort of assistance from the voice of limitation to assist it in conducting any sort of conversation. You see, so more and more experiment with this, and you see what will happen is that sometimes the mind will put you in this sort of rush because the intuitive presence is not rushed. So it'll say, see, now I'm trying to be intuitive about this, but nothing is coming. You see, this kind of fear tactics it'll use. But try it out. You will not lose anything. You see, you will learn to trust this grace of this divine presence. You see, so then what might happen is that your mind might shift and saying, yes, yes, now interactions are also fine. We have not yet invented me and the others, and yet everything seems to play out in front of us quite fine. You see, but this energy business, you see, this energy business, that is not what I signed up for, you see, because I work so hard to make myself empty. Then the minute I come in contact with so-called others, then I'm getting all of this stuff. You see, maybe I should move to a cave or something where I don't have to engage with this sort of energy. You see, but in the same way, I want to tell you that it has nothing to do with you. Just like water finds its level, you see, water finds its level, energy also, the manifest energy of consciousness finds its level. You see, but if you take ownership over one body or one set of sensations and say, no, no, this should be open and empty, and I'm unwilling to be in the overall universal movement of this energy, then that is not true spirituality. That is spirituality for in a way for selfish ends. You see? So anyone who is sharing satsang, for example, or coming to more and more recognition of themselves, for example, will not say that may this body not experience what that one is experiencing, because that is their problem. You see, in fact, it may become the reverse and say, if anyone has to experience it, may it be here. You see, because I am open enough to deal with it without suffering as much as they will. You see? So, so that you don't have to force yourself to pick up that perspective, but that naturally will also become a natural part of your existence. So here, for example, I will say to all of you, and with complete integrity, that I would much rather, if you're going through something energetically, you see, I would say, may my children not have to endure that. Let it be experienced here, because here it's mostly peanuts and popcorn. It's not such a big deal. So, and it's the same there as here and there provisionally, we are saying. You see, but I'm happy. But but I also recognize that that sort of thing is also great grace sometimes, because because we will make interpretations of that and we will suffer. And sometimes that suffering is important because it opens us up. You see? So I just feel like it is being handled very well by consciousness, and we must not try and second guess how that movement is happening. You see? Like who is the doer and the experiencer of this energetic play? It is that same consciousness. But we cannot truly say that you see, we come into the inquiry and discover ourselves beyond this realm of time and space, and our manifest is this entire universality of existence, and then say, no, but your energy I can't have. You see, there's too much dichotomy in those two perspectives, and true openness means whatever is Master's grace. You see, the Master's grace is not making a mistake. Nobody's making a mistake sending that to you. It is all part of a universal grace. You see? In fact, the Sangha is a refuge in that way, no? Not just in the way of giving information to each other or spiritual concepts to each other, but you feel supported energetically also by the Sangha. And all Sangha members who are coming to more and more openness, more and more emptiness, will find that there are times that they seem to take on this kind of movement, but they are not resistive towards that. They trust the Master's grace that whatever is being brought with the supreme intelligence in operation. So in simple words, nothing for you to worry about. Nothing for you to deal with or worry about.
Okay,
There
Father, that was
greater forces at play than our mind can understand.
फादर आपके सामने समझ आता है, उसके बाद I lose it.
Say again?
आप समझाते हो समझ आता है.
Yeah.
When I'm with you, then I understand, I get it. I lose it afterwards. I'll hear it again, Father. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Father, is it okay if I'm sitting in Vrindavan and feeling happy, and it doesn't mean I'm avoiding Delhi, is it? I am avoiding Delhi.
No, it's fine. Everything is fine.
Okay. Thank you, Father.
Instead of asking, am I avoiding Delhi? I think it's better to ask, who is the I? You see? Because in the am I avoiding or not avoiding, the identity seems to be predetermined, which is this body mind. You see? But we cannot really confirm that, isn't it? So become a bit uncertain about who the I is before we want certainty on whether what is showing up is good or bad or right or wrong. Before we can have certainty on the movement of appearances, we must try and get to some sort of certainty about who we are first. You see, because that is the substratum. So if there is false certainty about who we are, which is this body mind, then we must get to some I don't know about that, because you don't know who you are. And then all the inquiry, all the pointers are there for you to come to that self-realization about yourself. And then you will notice that the what should I be doing, is this right, is this wrong kind of questions, they just dissolve in the recognition of reality. Good. Thank you. Okay, let's hear from Peter.
Namaste, Father.
Namaste, my dear. Namaste.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I want to come back to the inquiry because there's a thing that I notice very often. If I'm following a question in the inquiry, for example, who is it that is even aware of being, then those questions, they dissolve very soon. There's something, I cannot hold the question. It's like if I'm getting deeper and emptier, the questions somehow disappears. I cannot hold it anymore. It's just emptiness, and it's a feeling as if all falls into one, and there is no more beingness, there is no more awareness. There's just this complete emptiness, and I cannot hold this question anymore.
Yes, yes, exactly. Very good. So the question has done its job. You see, you bought a ticket to the show, and once you got to the show, then you no longer need the ticket. You see? Yes. And I hope that in this report, which is very beautiful, I hope that when you mean that all that is left is emptiness, is also something that you are saying just for conversation, just to communicate, to point to your experience, which is not, it is hopefully not, oh, this is so empty, this is so empty. It is empty even of that, isn't it?
Yes, there's sometimes in the beginning there's still an observation of emptiness. There's some kind of knowing now this is emptiness, but this also disappears somehow.
Yes, yes, yes. Because that where you pointed to cannot actually know emptiness.
Mm.
Yes. It tries to be your tour guide for some time. You see? And say, see now, this is, we are visiting emptiness, look on your left, emptiness here. You see? But then it can't survive in the potency of the inquiry. It also goes away. You see? One tip I want to give you and everyone is that many times we take like a darkness, like a dark empty space to signify emptiness. But that is also not really the answer. It is just that which is aware even of that dark empty space, which is what I feel you're pointing to. But just to clarify, because many times this is where the mind comes in when you start experiencing like a darkness, the absence of perception as a darkness, usually the mind will come and say, this is so spacious and it is so empty. But the spaciousness and the emptiness we are speaking of is that which is aware even of that.
Yes.
That which is aware even of that.
There's no darkness.
Yes, 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 exactly. Exactly. No darkness, no light. You see, just for communication, we can use terms like dark or light or empty or full. Then all of these don't have any meaning there.
Thank you.
Very good, very good, very good. You see? And when the inquiry stops, let's say, you see, I'm doing this a lot today, I noticed that. Then when this manifest seems to play out again or is more in attention, you see, then what changes?
You mean when these questions disappear?
When the
questions, when the inquiry just disappears, what I was talking about.
Yeah, so suppose the inquiry disappears and then like the questions of the inquiry disappear, but then you're back to, let's say, day-to-day life. Then what changes?
Yes. Yeah, there's still some, when I'm back in daily life, there's still some thought coming up sometimes. Well, I hope the emptiness will not disappear completely or something like that. But this is also seen.
Yes.
Yes, and during daytime, sometimes those questions they just come again. The inquiry just comes again, and sometimes this question arises: who is watching all this? Who is doing all this?
Yes, yeah, yeah. But I'm saying that even when you're not in the inquiry, whatever the question of the inquiry may be, the reality of yourself, you see, does not change, and the apparency of that reality is always available to you. You see? So, so there comes a point that you don't always need to specifically ask and say, who am I? Or who is aware of awareness? Or who is aware of existence? You see, sometimes it can feel like just who, clear, no? Even the were, you see, it is were clear. No? And then you don't even need that. It's just like a, just like a, like that. See? And just clarity. And then even that is not easy. Because all this can shake about, but in reality, nothing is changing.
Yes.
So the non-phenomenal taste of your true self is not just when we are in the inquiry, it is always available. And the
Yes.
inquiry is helpful because something becomes really clear that it's always available.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I sort of got reminded of this beautiful set of instructions from Bhagwan that we were going through just yesterday, some of us. He said that the self is always the self. It is not something that you will gain. It is not something that you can lose. You see, all that is needed, he's very clear about that, is that we no longer practice, you see, being the not self or identifying as the not self. You see, so the truth does not need to be practiced. It is that we just have to stop practicing the false. And what is the practice of the false? It is ignorance. You see, it is to take yourself to be that which you're not. You see? So what happens, he said, is very beautiful examples he gave. One example was just when we are digging, you see, when we're digging a hole, it is just that all the dirt is taken out, but we do not create the space. The space is already there. You see? And when we are trying to make room, we just remove objects and room is already there. In the same way, reality, truth, self-knowledge, whatever you may call it, is already there. All that is needed is that these mental conditions, these vasanas are taken out. You see? Then the questioner says, okay, thank you, very helpful. Now, how do I take out these mental conditions of vasanas? And that is when Bhagwan's 1-2 punch comes into play. So he said, you are free from them now. See? So beautiful, isn't it? Because first was you have to empty it out. All that you have to do is empty it out. You see? So it gets rid of one misconception. Then with the second punch, he takes out the idea of any doership about any of that. And the questioner says, how can I empty myself? How can I take out ignorance? He says, right now, you are free from it. The intellect cannot understand it because to the intellect, the two will seem contradictory. Because first he said, take out the dirt. Then he said, but already out. You see? So, but this kind of pointing pushes you out of the intellect and brings you to a now, which is not a now in time. Brings you here to a here which is not in space. You see? And most of you in Satsang have had at least glimpses of this, what I'm speaking of. Okay, some more hands. Okay, Shiv. Shiv and then Siddha. Siddha can come after Shiv.
Hello, Father. You can hear me?
Yes, madam.
Oh, sorry. Where is the camera? Okay. I am really clumsy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay, na? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm a bit excited to share something with you, which is somewhat conceptual, but no, I'm not even sure. But
okay.
But it's but we tend to do these sort of things, so I'm doing it again.
It's
So
fine.
the other day, me and some of my college friends were having a chat, and then the hard problem of consciousness came up, and
The hard,
the hard problem of consciousness.
the hard problem. Okay. Of
You haven't heard
consciousness.
of it? Okay. I'll tell you about it. So it's
Yes.
this, that it's fundamentally the question is, how does matter give rise to experience?
Right.
I'm paraphrasing using my own words as matter, and so then for a while I was trying to lay out the differences between these two things, our experience of something and whatever material processes culminated in it. There's one final transformation which is somewhat weird. Like for instance, like the experience of a color, experience of
Yeah.
red, is very different from the materialistic conception of it as an electromagnetic wave, an alternating electromagnetic wave going through a field. So the experience of red, how do you see that it's different from this electromagnetic wave, this physical electromagnetic wave? And that person somehow got it, but then another person also, we had a different conversation, but it was what really made it special was something like this, that this was the first time when I felt that I know something, but I don't know how to I have no words to capture it in. Like trying to point toward what that consciousness is, and about how in a way it's all experience, and the potential for experience in a way is consciousness. And so I've picked it up from places, whatever, but I just wanted to know if this is the consciousness that you talk about, because one other thing that I notice is that the reason I suspect the reason why the hard problem of consciousness evades being solved, it's because, first of all, our sense experience, based on which we construct science, empirical sciences, they are all validated by sense experience, and sense experience is all consciousness. And from this, we abstracted out matter, and from that matter, we're trying to get back to consciousness. Yeah. So I suspect that the mistake is there in the first thing, in the first step, where you try to abstract out matter from sense experience or any experience consciousness. And I'm exploring that also, whatever. But I wanted to know if this is also somewhat in alignment with how these Westerners talk about consciousness, qualia, yeah. This, that, all of that. So I wanted to know if this is the consciousness that you also talk about.
In a way, the only distinction would be that when we talk about potentiality, usually in physical terms or physics terms, if you talk about potentiality, it is limited. You see, when potential energy expresses itself into another form of energy, kinetic energy, whatever other energy, then it runs out. You see, but this is that potentiality. It is that spring which can jump, but it doesn't run out of potential energy because it has jumped.
But what would be the jump here? Manifesting, something manifesting.
Yes.
Right.
So the primordial consciousness, I amness, Om, whatever you call it, is manifesting this entire play within itself, but it is not that it itself is reduced in some way by doing that. You see, that is why that Purnamadam, Purnamidam, it remains, the whole comes out of the whole, and yet that which it came out from remains whole.
I think that's how I was also trying to, it's complete freedom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be anything. And but okay. So otherwise it's the same consciousness that you talk about?
Yeah. Well, mind doesn't need so much hard work. That is.
Yeah. No, but I feel that also.
Mind is not a hard problem. It is not even a soft problem. Mind is not a problem.
Right.
I am.
So that's all.
I am. That's it.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to share with you, Father.
Very
I just
good,
wanted to
very
hear.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoy your
Thank you.
exploration. I enjoy your
Thank you. Thank you.
Sita can come.
Hello, Father.
Hello, my dear.
um, I have nothing to say actually. I don't have any question. I don't know if I have something to share. I know that I have, but I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to meet with you. I don't know. Yeah.
What is this place you're in?
Ah! Yes, today I have arrived in Rumiston again.
Ah,
The anniversary of, yes, Shebi Arus. It's called as Shebi Arus in
the
your term.
anniversary? The anniversary of what?
It's called as wedding day. I think it's Mahasamadhi Day.
I see.
It's called like this. Yeah. So I have come again. I've been brought actually. So yeah, it's just like this. Actually, yes, there is so many things happening, but I don't know if I have something to offer. But if you feel to you can ask a question, I very much appreciate it if you
I'm
can.
very happy that you're there. Now, where are you exactly in relation to the tomb? Is it allowed that you can share some visuals from there, or?
Oh, I'm so sorry about this because just right now I have quit. I will check. I was inside actually,
I see.
but I
And this
couldn't.
building behind you is the tomb, is it?
It's the outside of the tomb. Yes,
Yes.
like
Yes.
this. Okay, I will show it outside again, and it's in restoration right now. So the beautiful place couldn't be seen. There is a restoration here. This blue thing. Yeah.
I see. Very nice. So blessed. So blessed that we
Yeah.
can all be with you in this auspicious place.
Yes, Father. I don't know. I just want to talk with you a lot, but I don't know about what or what to say even.
I'm just so enjoying this darshan of Rumiji through you.
Okay, Father. So I will be here about 10 days and we have satsang with you. Yes. So next time or whenever I will be inside and I'm going to show inside to all of you. So yeah, it's such a happiness for us to do this too. So okay, so see you next time then.
Yes. That sounds wonderful. Wonderful. And all of us are with you in this auspicious journey, pilgrimage. And you say yesterday was the Mahasamadhi day? Yesterday or today?
No, it's 17.
17.
I don't know. There is a couple of days. Yeah, 6 days later. Yeah. I'm so happy, I'm always be brought here. So I found myself here always. And yes, it's such a blessing. Actually, it's such a gift from Guruji because after him, it has started. So, yeah.
Actually, I have to say that it's only because of Guruji that I can relate in a way to Sri Rumi in this way. Because being a Vedantin, mostly in conditioning here, we don't talk so much of the beloved and love and these kind of things. So only through Guruji did I get a true darshan of that, of course, in his expression, because it is so loving, and I just feel like I met my beloved when I met Guruji. So then I could relate a little more to the beautiful sharings of Rumiji and Shams and that whole tradition. I have to say that mostly this conditioning still continues to be Vedantin. So I don't automatically gravitate to those kind of writings, in all honesty, but I can tell that the immensity of insight and love is only for one who is one with God. Those kind of words can only come from there. It's very, very beautiful. So thank you for this darshan today. And
thank you,
on such an auspicious time, 6 days before the Mahasamadhi day. Thank you. And also Osho ji's birthday today, no? So that reminds me that all of us bow down humbly at the holy feet of Sri Osho ji for his beautiful birthday today, and may his grace continue to shine on all of us. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm privileged that some of Osho ji's children also then come to Satsang, and they feel some resonance with this expression as well. So it's all the one Satguru's grace which is moving all these instruments.
Thank you so much, Father. Thank you for coming, and thanks to all the Sangha, and much love from here to you. And all of us, all of you are here with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
I'm sure everyone's very happy to have had that visual, no? And the rest of you can see the recording.
Okay, more will come, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. Love you. Okay. So. Satya is here. Very good.
Hey, Father. How are you? So it's so lovely to see you. I'm only able to join sometimes at the moment, but I'm just so grateful I am able to join. So it's just a thing that is coming up, like to ask. Like I seem to be pretty rubbish at self-inquiry.
Rubbish at it?
Yeah, pretty. Like it's so funny because it's a very inconsistent experience for me, and I suppose that's okay, because sometimes it's like, like your questions, can I stop being? Obviously not. And I can feel that I cannot stop being.
Can we try? Sorry, my dear, one sec. Can we try moving the speaker a little closer, because I'm struggling to hear almost everything.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm too far from I don't know where my microphone is on this computer. But
also, we moved our speaker a bit away because it was interfering with the sound. Is my sound still okay? Or is there too much of the humming in the background?
So, okay here anyway. It's totally clear here.
Okay. So this way I can hear you better. Yes.
Okay, good.
So I got the part about being inconsistent and not so regular, was it, with the inquiry? And sometimes the questions seem very strong and sometimes they are powerless. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's a bit like, it's kind of like sometimes it's always obvious, but then often anyway, just in life, there's anxiety about a lot of life things going on, but that's going on. So maybe that makes it more difficult to sink into the answer, because sometimes it's like, it's the same question, but the lovely piece arrives, or, is seen or whatever. And So I see, yes, of course, I'm awareness, like obviously, or something like that, you know, maybe not exactly those words. And then I can sink into it, and that feels nourishing. It feels fulfilling. It feels like this is hopefully heading in the right direction. And then other times it's like, even though most of the time, it must be said, even though I can see, yeah, yes, of course, obviously I'm awareness, because that's before anything.
Yeah.
And there isn't any visuals with it. There's nothing, it's very indescribable, but kind of awareness is a good word for it. And yet it doesn't sing. And then I think, oh, you're so rubbish at inquiring. Come on. Like, you know, and I suppose I just have, you know, I just sort of have to go with it. I don't know. And then it feels like I'm just, you know, like the worst disciple kind of thing, the worst devotee who doesn't know how to do anything. And it's, you know, I don't want to be like that sort of towards you in a way. It's like, I don't know how to relate properly to you or something. I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there. So.
Okay, this is good. This is good. Thank you. Thank you for that report. I don't know if you told me this and what I responded, but actually what you said reminded me so much of how this one's expression played out before he met Guruji. You know? And so it was someday inquiry was so good, like, who am I? Thought is coming. Who is witnessing that thought? More thought is coming. Who is witnessing that thought? And then just Om Shanti Shanti, you know, then days like that. And some days just not happening. Who am I? Who cares? You know, it's just like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's like that.
Maybe it's not meant for you. Do some chanting. Then, you know, then it's just Ram, Ram, Ram. Yeah, this is working. This is so nice. Why do I waste time with inquiry? Just chant, chant. You know, Ram will sort it out. Ram, Ram. After some time, but are you really Ram Bhakt? I feel like Shiva is super potent. You see, it's because Ram thing, it's not working so well now. So, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva. Ah, Shiva, Shiva. Why do I confuse myself with inquiry and Ram chanting? It's just Shiva for me. You know, then after a few days, this stuff, you know, chanting is not so direct. I need something more direct. Let me try the inquiry. Who am I? Ah, so clear. Why do I confuse my? So it's a full this kind of circular loop. No, and many things. I've just told you three, but sometimes chanting with mala, sometimes chanting no mala, sometimes all kinds of things. You see, so if somebody was to make a template out of Ananta's life and say that is the way to get to freedom, then inconsistency is the way. You see? So you should not at all feel like you're an unworthy disciple or something, because you're just following the master's footsteps. No? You see? So it's fine like this also. And the thing is that we may have something that make us feel like inquiry is not working, for example, is that you gave me a clue as you spoke about it, was that the idea that it must lead to something, that it must lead to a state of peace, or it must lead to some stability in joy, or a set of better feelings, or something like that. You see? Now, what if we do not burden the inquiry with any of that? You see? It is just truth for truth's sake, self for self's sake, and not because the truth can give us something, or the self can give us something, or the inquiry must give us something, but it's just because it is such a direct way to stop living a lie, you see, to stop living a misidentification or a limited notion about ourselves, you see. So if that was the only thing that happened, that it brings you face to face, so to speak, with your reality, and doesn't give you anything else in return, like you cannot ask, so what's in it for me about it? And if it's just meant for that immediate darshan, would it still be worth it or no?
You see, it is. I know it is, because it's that, and that's what's so weird about it. It's like that has been a strong thing inside me for a very, very long time, way before I met you, not knowing how still, of course, but but of course the old ego is always kicking in. It's like, yeah, that's great too, but like some nice, they're both, unfortunately, they're both going on. They're both going on in this one here anyway, but certainly, yeah, just for its own sake, that's brilliant. Like that's it's all there. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. A bit of that back and forth, oscillating, is natural in this life. It's quite natural. So don't overburden yourself with expectations or any idea that by now this should have gone or it should be like this. The universe is not messing up your recipe. You're being cooked perfectly fine.
and because sometimes that even comes through is like, well, I can't really do anything about it anyway. It's sort of,
that sounds like a good opportunity to ask, who is the I who can't do anything?
Yes, that, yeah, because the practices are done, I suppose, by the body mind or whatever, because they require diligence or whatever, but choosing to do yoga, or apparently so anyway, things like this.
Well, apparently they require some discipline and diligence and all of these things, but not the way it happened here. It was a big spiritual soup here, and yet grace takes care of it. And that's why I say that if it is possible for this, in this expression of consciousness, for the truth to be found, then it must be possible for everyone. And that is a blessing and a prediction. It is not something that we must take and say, oh, I should have found it by now. If that guy who was so inconsistent with his practices found it at a particular age, then what are you doing? It's not meant in that way. It is just meant to be a blessing and a hopeful prediction, full of possibility, full of divinity. Trust anything that makes you empty in that moment, whatever the type of inquiry or practice it may be. It may not even be anything, just the reminder that empty. Yes, anything that opens you up is good enough.
Yeah, I think I have to drop a lot more of the expectation. And that's, I suppose, because when I feel anxious, I want to feel more peace because it's a bit unsettling when it goes on for a long time. But anyway, that's...
Cannot have a master and a problem. All problems then belong to the master. Then there's nothing to be anxious about, because once you're on the guru train, then the guru is driving the train to exactly where it needs to go. You see, anxiety is, are we there yet? Why aren't we there yet? Are we going in the right way? You see, but to have that devotion in your heart and to say, I have a master, implies that inherent in that having a master is inherent that you're being taken care of.
That's good. That's good to hear again. Thank you so much for saying that.
So welcome, so welcome. And I've always said this to you every time you come, that it's always such a joy to hear you, to see your expression is always pure beauty, pure beauty.
Well, hopefully the travel things will change well, sometime, and that can happen again. I certainly hope so. It's lovely to be there.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'll just dive into the chat somewhere. I don't feel like I can catch up with everything. One says, is it better to ask questions or raise hands time to time to be in Master's attention? Or is it enough to just be in the satsang, even if Master may not be noticing us being there? No such template exists. If there's an urge to raise your hand and ask a question, sometimes it can just to be in the attention as you speak is fine. And sometimes you're just there without any need for any of that sort of interaction or conversation. That's completely fine too. Like this is completely fine. This in a way is indirectly that as well. Which is sweet. I find it sweet. It's good. Then one says, are grade A emotions, which is provisional, okay? Grade A and grade B, it's not a new sort of conceptual understanding that I'm propagating. It's just to explain some concepts. So are grade A emotions, perceptions, and sensations also mentally constructed and fabricated? It depends on what we mean by mentally. If we take the smaller definition of mentally, which is that it's a bundle of thoughts, which means that we've taken a set of energy constructs and only that set we call the mind, then no, these are different constructs. But if we take the mind to be everything, you see, like the big mind, then everything is an ocean. Everything is actually a mental construct in the mind of consciousness itself. Okay. Some question on the energies, which I feel was answered. Father, many times I hear clearly and feel a vibration like Om. Yes, I feel it feeds me. Is this the meaning of Omkar? Yes, yes, yes. This is the primordial, the pure beingness itself. Yes. Father, can you please pray for me? May my Father's grace take care of everything that afflicts you. Okay. One says, Sri Rumi speaks of the heart so often. Is it the same as Bhagwan's heart? Yes. One heart. No? Father, is there a romance of God in Vedanta? Not in that way, at least. Not in that way, at least. Of course, there is a talk of a deep longing, deep longing for the truth. No? Momokshatva. We have a deep desire and longing for just the truth. So, in a way, we can say like that. Any other? We have some Vedantins in this room. You can ask. It's just the different cultural context and different ways of expression. So we mustn't worry too much about that. Then one says, Father, we will be Buddha, question mark. When we remove will be and question mark, the Buddha. And not just wordplay. Right now you are that. So it is our idea of time and attaining in time. The self is not something that we will attain. It is only that, as Bhagavan said, you have to remove the ignorance. And when will ignorance be removed? Right now. Then one says, Anantaji, there is a saying, when you are closer to the garden of truth, you start getting the fragrance, but most times the heart is looking for progress. Please throw some light. There's a saying like this, when we are closer to the truth, what happens when you start getting the fragrance, but the heart uh, sidetracks you, is it like that? Confuses you with progress or a sense of achievement or any of that. But actually what I'm pointing to is beyond closer or far or time-based or space-based. So just more direct. Father, can you guide us into how to pray for someone by putting them in our heart in a pure way? Just pray like a child. Just pray like a child. Don't have any sort of way to do it. You want to pray? Just pray. As if you were talking to a parent. That is one way, if you want to pray. Father, can you please pray for me and my family? May all of you be in the complete care of my Master's grace. Then next one says, Father, I want to realize the truth only because I think it gives eternal happiness and peace. Is this a wrong way to approach this? Please help. Am I feeling very low? I am feeling very low and dull. Okay, so suppose you come to a point where you want to realize the truth. You see? Now, it's like saying, I want to get to uh, New Delhi because in New Delhi I have all of that. You see? Now, if you constantly keep thinking of the because, you see, you will never take a step. You'll never move towards it. You see? So, to come to that, there must come a point where we let go of all the reasoning and the because and why we started the journey and we just take a step. So the realization of a truth is that one moment of true insight, immediate insight. You see? But what gets in the way is I want. Okay, you want it, fine. But can we keep it aside for just one moment? You see? And give the truth a chance. Sometimes I joke and say, even with pizza, we're willing to wait for 30 minutes. No? But with truth, we want immediate benefits. Can you give the truth 30 minutes? At least that much. No? Like before Can we give Sat-Chit 30 minutes before Ananda comes? Or do we have to burden ourselves with this expectation of Ananda constantly? So that is why when I talk about truth for truth's sake or God for God's sake, it is not because God is incapable of providing happiness or peace. It is because our constant expectation just stops the true darshan. Okay, Cad has a question. You can come.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Father, can you hear me?
Yes, I only hear you, though I don't see you yet.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw
there
in the
you
video.
are. There you are. Good.
Hey, Father.
You know,
see
it's
you.
so funny that just yesterday we were speaking about you.
Oh, yeah?
Isn't it? Just yesterday we were speaking about you, about how we met in Chicago. And you actually came to visit me in Bloomington when I dropped my son. And we actually took his room together, no? And you told me, I remember you saying this because you got worried when I said Bloomington because you felt it was Bloomington, Illinois. And actually it was Bloomington, Indiana. So you were a bit relieved to see that. We were just speaking about this yesterday. And it is so nice to see you. So nice.
It's always nice to see you, Father. You know that. I got to say I love you very, very, very much. Not your being, just the real you. I have a question. You know, I come from a Christian background, and I told you about my grandmother and everything. And last week you were saying, if you listen to a bhajan, something that kind of points you or bring you to like a peaceful place or whatever, do that. And a lot of times I listen to old hymns, right? Mahalia Jackson is like a real go-to of mine, right?
What's the name again?
And Mahalia Jackson. Can you hear me? Should I speak up? Mahalia Jackson.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just an unfamiliar name. So it took me a moment.
Yeah. And actually on Apple Music, on my Apple Music account, I seen that was a song of hers that was played the most was Old Rugged Cross. And it's just a song where she's talking about how Jesus suffered on the cross. And I just love that song. She just sings it and it just always connected with it, you know. I'm not even like deeply Baptist or even deeply into gospel music, but that song gets me, right? I was conditioned and I was raised to not believe you, right? Like, I was raised to, especially people that come from like India and people that practice Buddhism and you know, the different, I was raised to totally stay away from you and that type of person will confuse me, right? So I sit on your lap and you are my master without a doubt. But that deep conditioning is kind of a block for me. Because again, I was raised to believe that there has to be significance in the death of Jesus down on the cross. And that is the only way to God. And that's the only way to the kingdom of heaven. And there's just no other way, right? I don't know how I feel about that, but that comes up, right? And I feel like that's the only kind of block for me. Not to say that I don't need to believe it or that. It's just, I don't know. I get confused, but I'm not confused because I know, like I told you before, your way is right. Muji's way is right. I feel it in my heart. I don't know. And then I was even scared to bring this up to you because not even scared, but I know feelings are visitors and things come and go. And I just, you know how I do. I shrink down, sit on your lap and be still. It's my father's problem. But that still comes up, you know. You're not really recognizing Jesus died on the cross. I told you my grandma said, boy, you're going to burn in hell.
Yes, 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 you did.
And I don't know. Could you speak on that?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, it happened one time that I've shared this story before, maybe with you, but I feel open enough to share with everyone. There was a man who used to come and visit me, and he was a very nice man. His name was John, and he was a foreigner living in India. And what happened is that he would just come under some pretext, and we would talk and things like this. And then what happened is, after a while, I realized that he actually had the feeling, and this was many years ago before I met Guruji, that he had the feeling that he wanted to convert me like formally into Christianity or something like this. And I had some very beautiful conversations with this man, because I said that everything that Jesus said, I'm not opposed to. In fact, I'm completely in line with his complete trust that he was um, uh, my father's son. You see, the, the father's son. There's no doubt about that. So I don't see a reason why we need to necessarily apply a label or go through some formal process. So, so I would say a similar thing to you. And what happens is that many times uh, in the hearts of a devotee, there can be some feeling that this becomes the only way, this idea that it is the only way. But, but I feel like when Jesus, for example, said, I am the way, or even if he said, I am the only way, follow me, he was not pointing to a particular way in that way. He was pointing to the holiness of divine presence. You see, the way to the absolute is through the divinity of presence. And there is no doubt here that he was a pure embodiment of that divinity of presence, just in the way that the other great, beautiful masters and sages have been. So, so for grandma, I don't know what to say, but if it helps in some way, you can tell her that that Ananta also feels like Jesus was a pure embodiment of divinity, the true Son of God. There's no doubt about that. The only the only point of difference I may have in this expression is to say that that is the only expression that we can bow our head down to. You see? In a way, if we consider that all expressions of true divinity are in one way or the other the same, you see, then I can admit to even that. But whether we bow down to Krishna or we bow down to Bhagwan, Sri Ramana Maharishi, to Guruji, to Papaji, to all the great Anand Mahima, Jesus, Allah, you see, all of these. As what is important is our bowing down. You see? What is important is to change the locus of devotion from me to a greater divinity. You see? That is paramount. So so in fact, when we went to London this time, was it in London? Some of you were here, Victoria and Mike. No, we actually this group of people, we were going to meet in a park, and this group of people started talking to us, and it started very well because they were just telling me about Jesus said this, and this was the pointing, and I was agreeing with everything they were saying actually, till it came to a point about eternal damnation if you don't follow. You see, everything up to that point, I had no problem with
Right,
this kind of
same.
the final like the final fear tactic, saying you better now become this way, otherwise hell is waiting for you. That is my only point of disagreement in that whole conversation. See? Otherwise, we were being very attentive and we were listening to a lot of what is being said, and it reminded me a lot of Guruji actually. You see? So, so I have no such problem. I feel no distinction between any expression of the Lord, and I'm forever at the holy feet of all of these expressions. So, so that is how I feel, and I feel like in Jesus' life there's so many beautiful things we can learn from. You see, one is what what is the worst that can happen to you? Your best friend can betray you. You see, you can get betrayed by your best friend, get hung up on a cross. You can be left there to die. You see, and in that, you see, you can still have the compassion in your heart to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You see? In that, where everything that we can humanly imagine goes wrong in our life, you see, this is the embodiment of pure grace of the Lord. To be able to say, even though for a moment, you see, and also that reassurance is given to us, which is a very hopeful reassurance, because we may waver for a moment. You see, waver for a moment and say, oh, Father, have you forsaken me? You see, but very quickly come back to forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do. You see, what a beautiful embodiment. And such beautiful sayings. And please forgive me if I'm misquoting something, but even a statement like, those who have shall be given more, on those who do not, even what they have will be taken away from them. You see, the mind can misunderstand a statement like that and say, but this doesn't sound right. You see, but it's beautiful because those who are grateful, those who are open, they will receive. And those who feel like they don't have, they're just blocked, even what they have could be taken away from them. So there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful pointing that is available from the masters, and Jesus was a beautiful master. We've spoken today about Rumi ji, about Osho ji, about Jesus ji, although it's not usually referred to like that, but he deserves all our reverence as well for being such a beautiful embodiment of the Father Son, which is very beautiful. So all I can promise you is that hell is not waiting for you if you um, follow what I'm saying. You are pointed to exactly the same as any masters pointing to any true messenger of the Lord is pointing to the very same. And I appreciate your honesty and integrity about this to bring this up so openly. It's very beautiful. And so many of these things which I've felt so touched by in Jesus' life are coming. It is such a beautiful thing to be able to surrender and say, the Master has suffered for us on our behalf. You see, all the suffering that he has endured already has suffered from us. So we have no reason not to be joyful now. We have no reason to be grateful now.
Right.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
I say that all the time when I think about can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Okay. I say that all the time when I think about grace. I'd say that to myself. I think about you and I think about Jesus. Like, if he died on the cross, then there was nothing I could do. And the price has to be paid. There's just that, regardless of how I feel. But lastly, so there's no real significance in the death of Jesus Christ on the cross?
It is so beautiful, no? It is the most hopeful blessing, most hopeful blessing for all of us. It is such a reminder that we are free in spite of uh, the greatest suffering that can be endured in the human condition, and such a hopeful reminder of our reality. So if we take that in our heart and we bow down to that, we are free instantly. So free instantly. What greater
I see you the
significance?
same way, Father. I do see you the same way. Like, far as your love and your compassion, I know you wouldn't say that you Christ-like, but I see you very in Gurji, very Christ-like. Just your patience with us and your compassion, even you being here right now, is. Thank you very much.
When I met Guruji, I'd only heard about the love of Jesus before that. You see, the love that Jesus had for his disciples and for everyone. I'd only heard about it before that. But when I met Guruji, I felt like that is it. That is the first time I met it. I met it in his expression, and so grateful for that. In fact, many times I say that you will find rarely have we come across these kind of expressions of consciousness which embody the love of Christ and the wisdom of the highest sages in one embodiment. And we are so blessed to have Guruji in our lives.
I'm blessed to have you. We're blessed to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father.
Grazie. A few more prayer requests, and all of you are in my heart, and I'm praying for the Master's grace. I feel we are good for today. Maybe we can end with some bhajans and meet on Monday anyway, no? Let's see if this has subtitles. Since we played it, we'll still play. Enjoy the music.
या बीच में दुविधा बढ़ गई तो हो गए अरे घाटे पानी सब भरे में योगट भरे में यदि योगट घाट कबीर कान भरे सुनील मन यदि हिंदू कहूँ तो हूँ नहीं मुसलमान भी ना अरे देवी दोनों दिन में देवी दोनों अरे कहाँ से आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की कहाँ से आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की कोई सदगुरु मिले तो भेद बतावे भूल जावे अंतर की ओहो भूल जावे अंतर की अरे हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों भुलाने खटपट नायर है बाहर से बड़े साफ और बंदे दिखते हैं, पर उसको अंदर से गंदे, ऊपर से बड़े क्लीन पर अंदर से भी धरती में कुछ ठीक नहीं, कभी ऐसा कहते। इसलिए कहा है, अरे बाहर बैठा ध्यान लगा मैं भीतर सुता रही अटकी। अरे बाहर बैठा ध्यान लगा मैं भीतर सुता रही अटकी। अरे बाहर बंदा भीतर गंगा मन में मछली बैठी। अरे पकड़ा मुझी बेपटी। अरे कहाँ पे आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की। कोई सद्गुरु मिले तो भेद बता मैं भूल जाने अंतर की। ये भाई भूल जाने अंतर की। अरे माला मुंद्रा तिलक छापा तिलक बरत मेरा की। माला मुंद्रा तिलक छापा तिलक बरत मेरा की। मैं गाए बजावे लोक भी जावे खबर नहीं अपने तन की। आदि खबर नहीं अपने तन की। अरे कहाँ से आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की। कोई सद्गुरु मिले तो भेद बतावे भूल जावे अंतर की। ओहो भूल जावे अंतर की। अंतिम में अरे बिना विवेक से गीता बातें चेतन को लगी नहीं टटकी। हाँ बिना विवेक से गीता बातें चेतन को लगी नहीं टटकी। भाई कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधु आवाज मेरा बजती विशाल। अरे आवाज मेरा बजती। अरे कहाँ से आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की। कोई सद्गुरु मिले तो भेद बतावे भूल जावे अंतर की। हाँ भूल जावे अंतर की। अरे कहाँ से आया कहाँ जाओगे खबर करो अपने तन की। कोई सद्गुरु मिले तो भेद बतावे भूल जावे अंतर की। ए भाई हाँ भूल जावे अंतर की। ओहो भूल जावे अंतर की। हाँ हाँ भूल जावे अंतर की।
There you go. You know what I'm going to play? Okay.
I know Jesus on that man. Tell him what you want. Jesus on that man. Tell him what you want. Jesus on and main. Tell him what you want. You can call him up. Tell him what you want. Talking about Jesus on and main line. I said Jesus on and main line. I know Jesus on and main line. You can call him up, tell him what you and I'm I ain't never busy. All my life ain't never busy. I know mine ain't never busy. You can call him up, tell him what you want. I said Jesus on that main line. Talking about Jesus on that main line. I know Jesus on that main line. You can call him up, tell him what you and now if you're sick and wanna get well, I say if you're sick and wanna get well, talk about if you're sick and you wanna get well, you can call him up, tell him what you I know you're in the lead principle. I said Jesus come and be alive. I know Jesus come and be alive. You can call him up, tell him what you now if don't feel down and out. Talk about if you're feeling down and out. I say everybody feel a little down out. You can call him up, tell him what you want. I know Jesus on that main line. I said Jesus on that main line. I know Jesus on that main line. You can call him up, tell him what you want. Look at gotta go. Now if your soul in trouble, well, I know my soul in trouble. Talk about if you're said, Jesus, don't let me lie. I said, Jesus, don't let me lie. You can call him up, tell him what you ask him. I know Jesus, don't let me lie. I said, Jesus, don't let me lie. Talking about Jesus, don't let me lie. You can call him up, tell him what you. You can call him up, tell him what you
Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Baba ki Guru Kripa Kevalam.